have my t-shirt out of I had my Indian shirt out a little bit ago. I was casual.
You better save that as a collector's item, Jack.
That's true. I hadn't thought about that. That's kind of sad. 70 years old. I've known nothing but the Cleveland Indians.
You and all the rest of us too, Jack.
I know.
Okay, do we know how many more people we need here?
All right, I'm looking for Mr. Jones, Cheryl Stevens, and Sunny.
Okay, 3. Well, say we'll give them a few minutes.
Okay.
Did anyone get any emails about the mask?
Yes.
The question is, how many emails did you get
few.
about the mask?
Just joking. I'm sure you did.
Yeah, I'd like to, I'd like to really talk about that offline because I think we're,
Oh, we're live.
I
Okay.
think we're live.
Ms.
but,
Schmatzer, I'm present.
We do. One of my colleagues was able to help me understand how a lot of these generic things were developed. So it's good. You knowing that will give you some more information. Which
Thank
will
you.
Mhm.
Okay, so Jones and Simon.
Okay, well, I think we're gonna go ahead since it's a long meeting.
And it didn't come from us. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay, is everybody ready? Okay,
Okay,
going once, okay. The Cuyahoga County Committee of the Whole for Tuesday, July the 7th, 2020 will be in order. And clerk, will you please read the item into the, no, first we have a roll call, yeah.
calling the roll, Ms. Baker,
Here.
Mr. Miller,
Here.
Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Strawn,
Here.
Ms. Conwell,
Present.
Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones is absent at the moment. Ms. Brown,
Here.
Ms. Stevens,
Present.
Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. I'd like the record to reflect that Mr. Jones is now in attendance and Council President Brady.
Here.
You have a quorum.
And I am here.
All right, is there any public comment, Madam Clerk?
Mr. President, there is no public comment for this meeting.
Okay, thank you. Item 4 is an item to be referred to the committee. Clerk, would you please read the item into the record?
Resolution number 2020-0121, determining to proceed with submitting to the electors of Cuyahoga County the question of a replacement of 2.5 mils of an existing tax for the benefit of the Cuyahoga County Public Library and an increase of 1.0 mil for the purpose of current expenses in accordance with the provisions of sections 3375.23, 5705.192, and 5705.23 of the Ohio Revised Code for a continuing period of time.
All right, it's my understanding that the administration has a proposed substitute. And I believe the law director is here to explain the substitute.
Yes, sir. Hi, this is Greg. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The substitute is necessary because frankly, we in the law department made a mistake when we drafted this up the first time. It would have had a consequence that was not intended by the library. The original version of this would have been replacing the 2.5 mil levy that they put, the continuing levy that the library put in place in 2008. Now that continuing levy is subject to rollback, which there's a lot of math involved, but what it essentially means is as the property values increase, the levy doesn't impact the property owner in the same way. It actually keeps the levy payment from increasing as property values just increase, say, due to inflation. So if we had, if it'd gone forward in the form that we'd originally submitted, it would have kind of reset that 2.5 and it would have had a bigger impact financially on the property owners than just the 1 mil that the library is intending to add. So this replacement levy or replacement resolution has frankly a bunch of whereas clauses in it to make it clear of that we're correcting something here and trying to get it done the right way, so that all we're doing would be referring over to the Board of Elections for the ballot the 1 mil increase that the library board requested. And then this is kind of a technicality here. This is pretty much an administrative function as far as the county is concerned. The revised code doesn't really give us any latitude here in referring this over to the electors in the form that it was requested by the library. So that's there's just want to make folks aware of that point.
So, that's a very important point here. We've been here before, but maybe some haven't or don't remember. We're simply a pass-through, as I would call it. This is not subject to debate. Many would ask, of course, why we should have to vote on something that we don't have any authority over, but could you explain that? That's the law, right?
Right, that's basically the quirk of the revised code when it comes to library levies, yes.
Okay. Is there any questions by the members of the council about the proposed substitute? Hearing none, I'd like to move that we accept the proposed substitute. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Okay.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of accepting the proposed substitute, say aye.
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 All opposed? The substitute is accepted. And now we'll be discussing the substitute. And we have the executive director of the Cuyahoga County Public Library with us today, along with the law director. And they can, I would say, come up to the podium, but I'm not quite sure it's working that way. Tracy, are you here?
I am here. Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi.
My name is Tracy Strobel. I'm the Executive Director of the Cuyahoga County Public Library. And I really want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak this afternoon about the library levy and why our board has chosen to go to the ballot in November. But before I get started on that, I want to offer my thanks and the library's gratitude to the county, specifically the Health and Human Services Department and the Emergency Operations Center. They've distributed face masks to the library branches, and those are being then distributed to our customers. We opened yesterday. We had over 8,000 visitors to our 27 branches yesterday, and we were able to offer them face masks thanks to the county. So we're very much appreciative of that. So I've been told I have an opportunity to give a little bit of a presentation, and if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen so that you don't have to just listen to me, but you can take a look at some great images and statistics about the library. I'm hoping this is working. Oh, it says that the host disabled participant screen sharing. Not sure if we can do anything about that. Maybe with my talking head. Is there anyone who can allow me to share the screen?
Hi, this is Janine. I'm hosting it. You should be able to share. It is enabled.
There we go. Okay, hopefully everybody can see that.
Yes.
Great. So I'm proud to come before you this afternoon as the executive director of the nation's #1 public library system for the 10th consecutive year. Before I get started on telling you why we're the #1 library system in the country, I'd like to share a little bit about the scope of the library system For those who aren't aware, we serve 620,000 residents in 47 communities across the county. We have 27 branches that span the inner ring suburbs and all the way out to the farthest reaches of our county. Our funding is comprised largely of revenue from local property taxes. As you can see on this screen, almost 63% of the library's budget comes through local support. And that is why the reduction in revenue from our levy over the past decade has made such a significant impact on our overall revenue. In 2019, we received 14% less from local property taxes than we did in 2009, which is the first year that we collected on our 2008 ballot issue. So even with this significant decrease in our revenue since 2009, we've maintained our commitment to stay off the ballot for the last 12 years. As you know, not many entities can say that, but we're very proud of the fact that we've made significant cuts and learned to live within our means. At the same time, we're busier than ever. Our usage has grown. We've had 5 million visits to the Cuyahoga County Public Library in 2019. That's more than the total attendance, all visitors for Indians, Browns, and Cavaliers games combined. In fact, our first day yesterday was over 8,000 visitors. So over the last decade, you may have noticed that we've invested $110 million back into the local economy with our 24 branch project of replacing or renewing our facilities. We've now made them highly desirable locations. We've worked exclusively with local architects, construction firms, and trades groups to complete these projects. We have a big commitment in investing our dollars back to the local economy. With these important updates, we can now offer the programs and services that makes Cuyahoga County Public Library the #1 library in the nation and an indispensable community asset. For our youngest county residents, the library supports family engagement to boost early literacy and language development. Our innovative Baby Club program pairs a child development specialist and a child librarian in a 5-week series for low-income families. Early childhood areas in our branches include specially designed play spaces and developmentally appropriate toys to support and stimulate a child's most important mode of learning, which of course is play. We also partner with key organizations. You can see in the image here on your screen that we recently hosted First Lady Fran DeWine, actually in February before we had to close. And we launched the Governor's Imagination Library Service in February, which now delivers books to children's ages birth through 5 to the homes of Cuyahoga County residents each month. And through our partnership with the Cleveland Food Bank, in 2019, we served over 35,000 summer lunches and after-school meals at library locations. For students who are a partner in their academic success, through close relationships with the 25 school districts that we serve, we've identified first and second graders who are most at risk of failing the 3rd grade reading guarantee. Our 1-2-3 Read curriculum leverages trained volunteers who provide one-on-one tutoring for these emerging readers, and more than 90% of those participants have increased and advanced their reading level. Our homework center programs, which were born out of the school strike crisis in Maple Heights more than a decade ago, delivers after-school homework help to students in our 10 lowest performing school districts, all free of charge. When the schools closed in March, we quickly ramped up our live online homework program through a service called tutor.com so that our kids still had access to free homework help. As we look ahead to the coming school year, the library is working to modify our programs so that we can ensure a continuance of student services for those whose school experience will most likely be a combination of in-person and distance learning. For adults, we're much more than books on shelves. Last year, we hosted more than 100 traveling authors, from Senator Sherrod Brown and Connie Schultz, who's pictured here, to our local celebrity chef, Michael Simon, best-selling authors Michael Conley and Jodi Picoult and luminary Jericho Brown. As our branches closed, we pivoted quickly to hosting author events online and having received incredible engagement from our followers. More than 1,500 people viewed a recent event with some favorite beach read authors. So the demand is still out there, and we continue to connect with our communities every day. Culinary literacy at the library helps our residents learn everything from the basics of cooking to nutrition and cultural diversity through food. And speaking of cultural diversity, the library is often the first place for immigrants in our community who are seeking to make a connection. Our ESOL and Aspire citizenship classes happen on a rolling basis and have transitioned during our closure to ensure there's no gap in learning for our adult students. You can see in the image here on the screen too, we've hosted citizenship ceremonies and very proud moments at our library buildings. Our adult education and workforce programs benefit from our partnership with Cuyahoga County. About 3 years ago, we were approached by County Executive Budish and the state separately on 2 respective initiatives that together represent an urgent societal need and an important contribution to our local economy. With the county, we stepped up to support your efforts to decentralize social services, making it more convenient for residents to apply for social benefits and maintain their eligibility. We trained our staff to become benefits navigators and prepared them to support our customers, many of whom lack the most basic digital literacy skills. They're now navigating the complex world of online benefits thanks to our staff. This provided an excellent opportunity to refer our customers, many among the 90,000 in Cuyahoga County who lack a high school diploma, into the library's Aspire Greater Cleveland High School Equivalency Program. The state of Ohio approached our library about becoming an Aspire provider when the Parma City Schools could no longer serve that function in our region. Again, we stepped up. Today, we offer GED prep classes and adult basic literacy classes, a program we took over when Project Learn folded in 2016. We were incredibly proud earlier this year to graduate 14 students in the county jail with their high school equivalency diploma. Their reentry will be easier and more smooth because an education credential was earned through the library's Aspire Greater Cleveland program. I share all this within the context of a declining revenue base and the fact that the Cuyahoga County Public Library has not been to the ballot since 2008. Prior to the pandemic, we cut expenditures by about $4 million annually, reducing our largest expenditure category, which is of course salaries and benefits, by over 14%. In terms of FTE, we've reduced by fully 10% over the last decade. The economic impact of the pandemic further compounds the library's system's revenue losses. We do expect a shortfall of about $5 million this year in our funding from the state's public library fund, which comes from the general revenue fund, income tax and sales tax, and of course will take a significant hit due to the pandemic. To compensate for this loss, over the past several months, we were forced to lay off or furlough 300 part-time staff, and the remaining staff were reduced for all 9 weeks by 50%. Our planned maintenance projects will be deferred this year, and our materials budget will be reduced by about 25%. So as we have developed services to make us the nation's #1 library system, we've operated within the lowest millage of any public library system in the county. So you may be aware that there are 9 total public library systems in the county. And as you can see, at our current 2.5 mil, we run at the lowest rate. Across the state, we compare favorably to our large peer libraries. You can see at 2.5, we're better than more than half of our peer libraries in terms of running with the least property tax. In fact, we were the first in the state to develop a financial model for our capital projects master plan, which systems like Columbus, Dayton, and Cleveland have now followed in our plan. Today, we're taking the next step in the process of requesting that voters in our 47 communities support a 1 mil levy. What does 1 mil mean? Well, for us, it means it will provide approximately $18 million to our annual operating budget. For residents in our 47 communities, it will mean an additional $2.91 each month per $100,000 valuation. The funding will enable CCPL to remain on our path of continuous improvement. It will ensure we remain among the very best public libraries in the nation. The funds will allow us to continue to operate our 27 branches and maintain our virtual services. It will preserve our evening and weekend hours. We're the only library system in the county to consistently offer 7-day-a-week service and 4 evenings per week. It will allow us to make necessary safety and security updates to ensure that customers and staff are safe and secure in our buildings. It will sustain a robust materials collection, which includes physical books, but also ebooks, audiobooks, subscription databases, and more. And finally, it will help to maintain the programs and services that I've discussed and shared with you today for at least the next decade. As our board deliberated on this issue late last year, they also, of course, considered how we would proceed without this funding. It's not a positive scenario. Without the funding, we would have to take steps that would significantly limit access for our community. The temporary reductions that were implemented to get us through this pandemic may need to become permanent. We would need to make further cuts to our materials budget, which would mean fewer subscriptions to research databases and longer wait times for in-demand titles. We would need to scale back our services, programs like technology certification classes, which have had deep impact for participants, but of course are at a higher per capita cost, or emerging services to address the digital divide, like our Wi-Fi hotspot lending, would need to be eliminated. As the library evolved programs and services to meet the needs of our community, we've done so with continuously diminishing resources. We've now reached a point where we cannot continue to operate as the nation's best public library system at our current funding level. As our community grapples with the short and long-term impacts of the coronavirus pandemic, we cannot afford to damage our public library system. We anticipate increased demand for computer access, internet connectivity, and workforce programs as the newly unemployed try to get back to work. We know we need to be there for students and families who will struggle with distance learning. At a time when information and education are paramount to the literal health of our community, we cannot cut off the community's primary information resource. We respectfully request your support for a proposed issue, and I welcome your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Strobel. Are there any questions by the council before I make a motion to move this to the for consideration by the council?
Yes, Council President Brady. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Through the president to Ms. Strobel, just wondering how much will it cost the taxpayer with a $100,000 home? Did you mention that?
$2.91 per month.
Additional to what they're already paying?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Have you guys talked about, because I'm concerned about increasing it at this time when so many families are struggling. So was there some conversation in regards to that? Why exactly you're picking this time to do it instead of going another year or so maybe?
Yes, the board had several conversations about whether to go in the spring of 2020 or the fall. We are running in deficit this year, which is why we are needing to make reductions and delay many facilities maintenance projects. But we chose to go in the fall to clear the ballot, of course, for the County Health and Human Services issue. And so choosing to go later in the year was largely motivated by that. But moving into 2021 without going into the ballot will force us to reduce hours and potentially close branches and certainly lay off staff.
And one final question on this topic. So if it does not pass, and I don't like to talk in the negative, you are prepared to put it back on in March?
Absolutely. Without going back on in March, again, we would have to make further and very significant cuts to services. And during this time, while I realize it's very difficult for many, frankly, most families, the library is one of their go-to sources for free access to information, to the internet, and to assistance.
And I just wanted to say, I support libraries. I'm just trying to get all the facts. But okay, thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Conwell. Any further questions?
I do, Councilman Brady.
Yes, Councilwoman.
President.
Mhm.
Hi, I have a question to the director about backup reserves. You said that, you're running a deficit with the budget, but I'm sure the library has some reserves to cover expenses and, over a period of time. Is that correct?
Well, and of course, we have to balance our budget every year. So to say we're running at a deficit is a little bit inaccurate. Of course, we're making significant cuts to planned projects. We do have some dollars in savings for lack of a better term, rainy day fund in case something drastic happened to one of our buildings. But in terms of our operating budget, we balance that every year, and that's reliant on our property tax and state dollars covering our full expenses, which they will cease to do this year, which is why we're making cuts to projects and our typical materials budget. And of course, in the coming years, will force us to cut more and more should we not be successful at the ballot.
So another question, was this not anticipated when the library board decided to build brand new libraries, and look forward to the budget to see if they would be able to sustain building these buildings and not having to go back to the taxpayers and raising the levy? Didn't you have a long-term projection on what was necessary to incorporate new libraries?
Absolutely. We have done significant and long-term budget forecasting. The buildings that we built over the last decade have actually allowed us to save money. I mentioned that we'd had a 10% reduction in overall FTE. That's due largely to the fact that our buildings are more efficiently laid out so that we can have fewer staff while offering the same or better services. And our buildings are more efficient. So we're saving on utilities as well.
So is raising the amount of the levy part of your projection when the library decided to build new buildings and move them and restructure? Was this anticipated that you'd be going back to the voters for more money?
No, building the buildings is completely separate and in fact have been underway for almost a decade. Going back to the ballot is necessary because the revenue generated by our current issue by its very nature declines over time. And in fact, it has declined 14% since the first year we collected in 2009. Of course, we can't continue to sustain our operations with that continuing reduction without eventually going back to the ballot. All tax-funded organizations need to eventually go back because with House Bill 920, libraries are capped and cannot earn more than they earned the first year, and in fact, earn less and less over time. So it's an eventuality that we'd have to go back, and the fact that we've gone 12 years without going back shows that we've been very wise with our spending and made significant cuts over time to live within our means.
So one last question, Councilman President, if I can, about wise choices. There's been some questions that have been raised with me as representing South Euclid, obviously the Telling Mansion issue, moving libraries away from schools so the kids can't walk anymore. And the Orange Library, for example, was in fine shape. And then, the board decided to build a brand new building. Those kind of questions are going to come up throughout this levy campaign, and people have vowed not to support it because of these decisions. How are you going to respond to that, especially with the Orange Library that didn't need a new library?
So I'll first touch on the South Euclid branch. The branch moved a little bit farther from the high school, but actually closer to an elementary school. And when the branch is open, we see those kids able to walk to the library every day. The
What
library,
school, what school walks, what
It's-
elementary school can walk to that library?
Greenwood, I think is the name of it.
Okay. On Green. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, and of course, the new branch there is accessible to people with physical disabilities, where the
Yeah.
old branch was absolutely inaccessible to people with even, even the most minor challenges with their mobility. In terms of the Orange branch, the community did come to us, and over the years came to us, and in fact, the school board then approached us about building a new branch on school board land. The branch there needed significant repair in terms of its major systems like the roof and HVAC. So we got to the point where we had to make choices between investing significant dollars in an old building that was not well laid out, to creating a new building where we could offer consolidated services and reduce the staffing expenses in the building by over 25%.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you,
Mr.
Councilwoman Simon. Any further questions?
I
Mr.
have
President,
one.
Yes,
President.
okay, just want to remind members, we've got a pretty big agenda in front of us today, and as you know, these questions are quite relevant, but because of the way the law is written, we don't have a say in whether this goes on the ballot or not, just to keep that in mind. I also want to thank Director Strobel for being graciously help not going on the ballot when we were putting forward the Health and Human Service levy. And just want her to know and let everybody else know how much we appreciate the fact that they didn't compete with us at a time when we were trying to seek revenue as well. Councilman Miller.
Mr. President, Ms. Strobel, how much is your annual operating budget and how much money is in the rainy day fund?
Our annual operating budget is approximately $68 million. And we have approximately $4 million set aside in a rainy day fund.
Okay, thanks, Mr. President.
Thank you, Thank Councilman. Anybody else?
I just have one quick question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Just quickly, I think you told us that it was, in case I'm asked by my constituents, $2.91 per month. Is that what you said it was?
Yes, ma'am.
So what are we paying now per month? And what is the breakdown between the 2.5 replacement increase and then the 1.0? Can you give us those three levels? Or you could get back to me, it doesn't.
Yeah, I'd be happy to get back to you with specific numbers, but it's approximately $26 per half, I believe. So I'll get back to you with specific numbers.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Hearing no further questions, I'd like to move that we send this item to the full council agenda for consideration for second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? The ayes have it, and the item will be on today's regular meeting agenda. So thank you very much. And thank you, Director Strobel.
You're very welcome. Thank you all for your time.
And good luck with your levy.
Thank you.
Okay, we have an executive session today. Surprise, right? And so, as always, all meetings of the Cuyahoga County Council are open to the public under the Ohio open meeting laws. Under that law, council may go into executive session during a meeting for authorized purposes. During executive session, council confers outside of the hearing of the public. Council may not make any decisions about any matters in executive session. All decisions are made in public. This afternoon, the council will go into executive session to discuss collective bargaining matters and pending or imminent litigation. During this time, council members will go off screen and return once the executive session is ended. Is there a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining matters and pending or imminent litigation?
Yvonne,
So
yes.
moved.
Been moved by Yvonne and seconded by
Simon.
Simon. Okay, would the clerk please call the roll to go into executive session? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
You're muted, Gene.
Sorry, I caught myself still muted. Ms. Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Tuma,
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher,
Yes.
Mr. Schron,
Yes.
Ms. Conwell,
Yes.
Mr. Jones,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Ms. Stevens,
Yes.
Ms. Simon,
Yes,
Council President Brady.
Yes.
The motion carries, and at this time, if I may, Council President, just want to tell the individuals who are here attending this meeting that the people will be moved over to executive session in groups. So the first group will be talking about the collective bargaining matters. Please make sure that your video is on, because if you're moved over, then it can't be turned on over on the other side. And then once they're done, everyone has to come out, and then we have to put the second group all in. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we'll go into executive session.
Hi, Jack, you should have received the invite. You have to accept it.
Okay, everyone's still on here. If you want to turn off your video and mute yourselves at this time, what we do is we put up a sign saying that the council members are in executive session at this time, and then they'll be coming out, and then you'll have to put your video back on, and then you'll be sent over for the next session.
Can you hear me?
They're in executive session right now, and you'll be part of the next group, Brendan.
Brendan, can you hear me? Healy.
Gentlemen, this portion, even though they're in executive session, you're still going to be on the screen as being recorded. So just to let you know that. So you probably want to
Okay.
just mute.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mark Perkins. Thanks, Janine. All right, Janine.
We're now in the room where it happened.
Yeah, we're back in the main session. Janine, whenever you can, send the different group over, please.
Okay, I'm doing that now.
Thank you.
Are you, Jack?
It is.
Okay.
Carol, you'll have to make sure that your video is on, so when you're sent over, you'll be on video. Okay, just takes a minute or so to get the next link set up.
Okay.
Okay, you all should have received the invite. You have to accept it to be moved over to the executive session.
Do you have that, Dave? There you go.
Hey, Mike, you have to accept it to move over to executive session. You should have received it.
They see me on there. I don't see an acceptance button.
Can you resend the invite, Janine?
No, I can't resend the invite. Mike, what I can try is to move you to the first room and then try to move you back. I can try that to see if that will do it.
Okay.
And Gina, are we all set to put up this screensaver?
Yes, we are. Michelle, if you want to stop your video and mute, that would be great.
to make this case go away. We put a number out there of $267,000. I believe we discussed that with council.
Jim Boyle, can you?
Somebody
mute
should mute,
please?
mute,
Quickly,
mute Boyle.
mute Boyle.
Jean, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Mr. President.
I've lost my video. I just wanted you to know. I think I can handle the rest of the meeting with the rest of this meeting without it.
Sure, we can see you though.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm fairly warned then.
For everyone who's still on, after the council president finalizes, and closes out this meeting, then everyone will have to leave the meeting and then go to the link for the next meeting. I believe everyone's back, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you. We are reconvening the council meeting and we are now back on record. Is there any miscellaneous business? Hearing none, the committee of the whole is adjourned. We will be back at 2 o'clock for the regular council meeting. Thank you.